In this video I want to take a look at drawing the question 1 from the higher level 2006 in orthographic projection. So first of all, looking at the question, a good idea to start off with is to convert the sizes that are on the sheet into the scale that we're looking at. So the scale we have is 1:4, so a simple dimension like 100 will become 25 and so on. And it's a good idea to write them on the page and have them sitting there in front of you when you're referring to the drawing then for putting the details on that. The next part that you want to figure out is what it is that you have to draw on the sheet, and it shows a few arrows here from the directions that they're looking from, an A and B, and it tells us that A is the elevation and B is the end view. So sometimes it can be useful to just sketch that on the page itself as to what way it's supposed to appear. I'm just underlining a little bit on here the glass top and a few of the dimensions and what have you here. So before we'd start, it's handy to have all that there together. After that, it's definitely well worth while taking a few seconds just to sketch which of the two views that you'll have and what you'll see from each of those. And it's also looking for 4 dimensions at the very end, so it's only a minor thing there as part of part 1. The second part then has to do with the sketch of the two joints, two pieces being jointed P and Q, and how you would suggest that they joint that. So I'm just going to sketch where my elevation would be, which will be on the left on the sheet, and then the end view is going to be on the right. And that's really the start point for us, what height we have to come down for our XY line and how much space we have to draw within each of those two rectangles. And you could have a VTH there, it's not a vertical trace, it's not essential, but if you wanted to you could do that. So I'm going to come down from the top with enough of space to be able to draw the overall height and the overall width of the table here. So that's the first rectangle drawn for the elevation is the outside height and outside width, and the same too for the end view, the outside width and outside height. So the table itself is I think it was 400 or that there, so like or 100 or 420, and I can start with that. So I'm starting drawing within the rectangle that's in the end view. Here we can see all the materials of the sizes they are, and I'm building up each of the parts as I go here. There's only a few little things in this here that really is worth taking a look at. Is that this quadrant that we have to draw, it's handy to use the compass as you see that the way that I'm moving here, using normals to draw that to get the centers, and the little cutouts are very, very easy to put in. And you can see I'm projecting lines across as well from the end view into my elevation, so as it should leave it easier for me to complete my elevation. So these lines are not drawn in separation, they're drawn with each other to show where these are. So hidden details, broken lines, solid lines obviously for what you would see when you're looking in. And you can see that I'm starting to move into the rails there. So that for bottom rail was 100 up from the bottom, so it's 25 measured up, and all the material here is 80 by 20. I used a center line to draw that there because it's 80 by 40, sorry, and I measured 10 millimeters either side of that there, so it creates the rails that are in here. So if you need to look back over drawing this, it's very easy to pause and go back on the video and take a look at what we've been doing here in the setup. And my 4 dimensions I'm creating in here, what I was shown with the set square being held up to, if you can use that as a guide for the distance. You should be really keeping away the measurements, and put the measurement in the middle of the 2 arrows of where that's shown as line going up to. So I have pretty much all the details shown in here. You can select any 4 dimensions, but probably some of the bigger dimensions are the better ones to pick, and that's our elevation and end view and 4 dimensions. The other thing then now is a sketch of the way the 2 pieces will be jointed. You could start by drawing them kind of in position of the way that they're going, and I'm going to pick a mortise and tenon straight through the piece here. And this is part 2, so I've labelled it part 2, and just as long as the drawing is clear. It doesn't have to be exactly the way that I'm drawing it here. The marks that are going for this part of the question, if you're beat for time, you want to be really speedy at it. You don't want to be spending a whole heap of time on this here. Definitely not as long as I'm showing I'm spending here. I have plenty of time to do this, so I'm going around the outside edges of it with a pen just to make it stand out that wee bit more, putting in my face side, face edge letters and end grain. And I can also go to colour that as well. Just when, I suppose when you have a little time here as well, you can see that all the lines from the elevation are all matching up. I'm going to put a little bit of colour in this here now. It's not necessary to put the colour into it. I just have the time to do this, and it's only light shading that we're doing with this, and it's to make it stand out on the page as well. And the yellow and the brown tends to go quite well when you're trying to show off jointing. It's something that you could use elsewhere. I've gone a little heavy with the yellow. It could be a lot lighter than that there, and it just makes it stand out.